got first warning before starting engine, before engine operation can be performed, main rotor tie down shall be removed. Well, let's assume we did that, right? Okay, next. All pilots complete a flight control access evaluation from the seat that they intend to use during flight. During pre-flight checks, the pilot and co-pilot must ensure that all primary flight propulsion and emergency controls can be safely and efficiently reached and actuated while restrained at the appropriate designated eye design position, which means that you're above the windscreen and you can see out there. All right? With maximum stretch of the shoulder and arm muscles. So I have to be able to reach flight, propulsion, and emergency controls, which basically means this, all of these, and these. If I can't reach that, I can't fly from this seat. All right. So I'm going to abbreviate that entire warning down to pilots have to perform access evaluations. They have to be able to reach propulsion, flight, and emergency controls while restrained. That's it. Right? Okay. Caution. Foam protective pad, that's this thing. Surrounds the glare shield. So use this for leverage. Don't grab here. So I'm going to abbreviate that entire caution to keep your hands off the foam pad. All right. So co-pilot's collective extended and locked. So co-pilot's collective extended, locked. Shoulder harness locks. Check for proper operation of the two-position inertia reel lock lever. So there's a specific way to do it, and they tell you how. Right? So to start, the lever is underneath your seat on the left side. There's a little knob, a little round knob. Okay, they should be unlocked when you get in. So I'm just going to lean a little forward. I'm going to grab it and go like that and let it lock. And then when I go back, you should hear it click. Right. Then we're going to unlock it. We're going to lock it back. So you got to cycle the switch once to lock and unlock. And then you should be able to lean forward, lock it. And then we got to unlock it again. So you're going to check, make sure the initial reel locks when you pull on it. You're going to make sure it locks when you move the lever. And you're going to make sure it unlocks so you can move freely. And mine is not unlocked.
So jump on it first?
Yep.
Like
So starting the lever in the auto lock position, rapidly extend the harness to engage the inertia reel lock, auto lock. Slowly let the harness retract all the way back into the inertia reel. With hand on the lever throughout the cycle, cycle the lever forward to manual lock position and then aft to auto lock position. So let's it go again. And then slowly pull the harness out of the reel to verify the inertia reel is unlocked. Great. So you're good. So VLEA set is required. That is the little levers that preset your weight for the tension on this chair. So you set yours where yours at. Mine's going to be around 200 something. And we're good. Okay? Then parking brake, release then set. So push the top of the pedals, the brake's down, let go of the pedals, brake stays up. Okay, so park, brake, release, then set. As a side note, when you're on the flight line and when you do that, you should probably yell out the window, clear the gear, because sometimes the aircraft will roll a little bit when you release the brake. You want to make sure your crew chief's not standing right by the door, because they usually are at that point. Okay, so this next step, circuit breakers and switches set. There are 29 steps for this. There's actually 30 something, but we don't do a couple of them. And they don't apply to us. Like, we don't have CMOS and chaff, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do it, which is basically the same way everybody else does. All right, so we're going to go with, I'm going to let you have this, and we'll do it kind of slowly and we'll follow along. Okay? So circuit breakers in. So I'm going to check all the circuit breakers behind my head. I'm going to run my hand across them because I can feel the one that's sticking out. I got this panel up here. I've got a panel here. I've got a panel here. Your panel of your head I can see pretty good from my side. And then there are two panels here. Check all these down and check all these down. All right. So circuit breakers are in.
Data cartridge, insert
Okay.
ATS.
So here's where you start in the next one. Okay, so data cartridge insert, label facing aft. Close that. All right. Storage jettison. We want off. Then we come up. We want our ARC 231, our radio in norm. Then we're going to come over here to our blade de-ice. We're going to have it in off, and auto, and norm. Then we're going to come across here to the center. We're going to go EGI 1 on, EGI 2 on, radar altimeter on. Now it's normally in the on position, that's the center. You just probably can't see it from your seat because it's blocked by the switch. But that is the on position. Then we're going to come forward. We don't do anything here. We go over here and we go 1 down, number 2 up. So number 2 is the radio you're going to get ATIS on. You're going to get your, like, the recording for radar or altitude, altimeter settings and stuff. So we don't want to listen to that yet, so we're going to pull that up. 3 down, 4 down, 5, 6, 7 up. And I'm going to kind of put these knobs with the little lines facing forward because that's mid-volume, right? And all these in the back can be up because we're not using those. Now, the remote, this is in remote. That allows us to use the radio select on the collective. If it's in any other position, we can't use the radio select. So we can leave it in remote. You got yours in remote? Okay, it's coming forward. Servo off switch, normal. Tail servo normal. Backup pump on, or auto. Backup hydraulic pump switch auto. Hydraulic leak test norm. Come forward to our emergency control panel, and it's auto, norm, norm. Dispense panel, it's safe, auto, closed. Aux fuel management panel, our pump switch is off, and all of these valves are closed. Okay. Then we go up here, and we're going to emit these off. Off and off. All right. Weird. Okay, off and off. And then we're going to come up here, and we're going to go anti-collision light. We want it in both. We want it in day. See, somebody should have turned it off when we got done with it last time. So both day. Then we're going to have position lights. We're going to leave them in off, but steady. If we need to use it, we'll just turn it on. And then we come back here. Vibe control switch. On. That switch never gets turned off. Okay? Somebody didn't do it right. And then we're going to go back here to open, cockpit, and safe. Right? That's our cargo hook switch. Open, cockpit, safe. Then we come up here, standby instrument test. There's a caution with it, or excuse me, a note with this that says we're gonna hold it in the test position for 5 seconds. So we take it to test. We're gonna look for bat good, and we're gonna hold it for 5 seconds.
Isn't that only if you're going IMC?
Yes.
Or just all the time?
We just plan for it every day. We
Okay.
go
So you have
every
to
day.
have it for 5 seconds to ensure that you have at least 30 minutes of
We have 30 minutes of battery power. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and push it to the on position and listen for audio. That's the beeping noise. Okay, then we turn it off. Then I go to battery 1, test, look for bat good. Battery 2, test, bat good. APU generator switch, off. Generator 1 and 2, on. Go to external power switch, off. Hydraulic APU control switch, off. Fuel pump switch, off. Air source heat start switch, APU. It should have been off. We'll move it to APU. Then I'm going to come forward. I'm going to do my fire T-handles, my pump switch. Doesn't really matter, I guess, which one you do first. But we're going to have pump switch off, T-handle in, and then we're going to do emergency off handles full forward. Now, the only thing I didn't do when I was doing that check was mission equipment, and it's out of sequence, and I'm going to turn it off. Now, it doesn't really matter where you do it. It's kind of strange that they have you check all of this, get all the way up here, turn the MFDs off, and then come back on the checklist and do this switch. So if you want to do it as when we're coming forward, when we do here, we go off, auto, norm, come across here, out, mission equipment off, out of sequence, and then EGIs 1 and 2 on, that's fine, that's the way I usually do it. Anyway, so you basically just come up here like this, come across, and forward. So that's kind of the flow, right? So back to front, bottom to top, back to front. And then we get to step number 6, which is battery number 1 and 2 on. Okay, so we got battery 1 and 2 on. Now, there's a note here that says we'll get ICS checks. We're going to get some audio, so we're going to listen for it. It takes about 5 seconds, 5-10 seconds. Should sound like a modem login in.
Yep,
You hear it?
I hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the modem login sound, then you get beep, 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 reset the master caution. Then you get a steady tone, reset the master caution, and then that's done with the audio. All right? So next step,
Cockpit and equipment check, fuel pump switch, APU boost.
fuel pump switch, APU boost. So these two switches are always done together. So to start the APU, you always turn the pump on. So whenever you see fuel pump switch to APU boost, the next one's going to be APU control switch on because they always go together. right? So fuel pump switch AP boost, and
And then 2 notes.
the APU control switch on. We got 2 notes. So note 1, or well, it doesn't matter really, I guess the order. But note says if we use the APU control switch on and we don't get, the APU doesn't attempt to start, you don't get an accumulo, then you can go back and attempt the manual start using the lever on the side of the accumulator. And if you don't know where that is, I'll show you when we get done here. The other note says that if the APU fails, we need to note and analyze the byte indications on the ESU before we attempt another start or before we recycle the battery switches. If you recycle the battery or attempt another start, it will clear the failure codes. Okay? So we're going to yell out the window, clear the APU. Somebody's going to yell back APU clear, and then we're going to go APU control switch on.
And then the 2 warnings.
So that's going to be for our power switch when we do it. So we're waiting for the APU on advisory to appear up here. So we've got our accum low. It takes about 20 seconds for the APU on to appear. Now that we've got that, we can turn on the APU generator. Okay, so turning on the APU generator, we've got a couple warnings. The first warning is about the TACAN. There you can get radiation burns from the TACAN if somebody's too close to it. So we need to say, clear the TACAN. We also have the stabilizer is going to slew full down when the power comes on, so we're going to go clear the stabilizer. So say clear the stab, clear the TACAN, and then we're going to turn power on. Now, MFD's on because the next thing is a timed event. All right, so we got our MFD's on. Notice our ESIS is still powered up. We don't have our attitude indicator yet. I don't have mine. You have yours because yours powers up with the battery. I don't have mine yet because the ESIS on my side comes on when I turn the power switch on. So there we go. Okay, so next step.
MFD's on and then
MFD's on. So what we're looking for right here is we're looking for our, on the torque display, to get a 25 for if we have an EDECU. So the EDECU 25 code, see it was there, now it's gone. Okay, so it appears 20 seconds after you turn the power on. So if you don't turn the power on and then immediately turn the MFDs on, you may miss it because it's only there for 5 seconds and then it goes away. So we're looking for a DEC code of 25. If we don't get the code, or if we get a different code, then we can go into the status fixed function key and look in DEC and find out. We can go status, we can go to air vehicle, we go to DEC 1 or 2 because there would be a no-go there, right, if there was a different code. So codes appear 20 seconds after power up. You need to have a 25, and if you have any other code, or if you need to look at the code and verify, you can verify the configuration in the status. All right? So what's the next one?
that covers all the notes, and then EDECU for 25 you just did.
We got it? Yep.
Interior, exterior lighting set as required.
Okay, so we're day VFR, so we don't really need any of the interior or exterior lighting. We turn on the anti-collision light, that's the only thing we need. Okay?
Standby instrument switch on.
Standby instrument switch on. So now that we have AC power, when we turn the standby instrument battery on, it's not gonna beep because the generator's on. Okay?
External power switch off and cable.
The external power switch. So the cable is out your door, right? So we don't normally use it at Fort Rucker. They're not going to let you use external power at Fort Rucker and Black Hawk. If you need external power, the aircraft's broken and they won't let you fly it. So we're going to go through the motions of external power's off, cable's disconnected.
And master warning panel, check 1 engine out, number 2
Okay.
engine out.
So right here, number 1, we're looking for number 1 engine out, number 2 engine out. Master caution, we should have a low rotor, right? So if any of these lights, number 1, number 2 engine out, or low rotor don't appear, you can push that light in. Okay. Normally, you can push it in, the little light will pop out. You pull it out a 1/4 inch, you push it back in, and it will reset the light. These lights are not real lights. This device is not it doesn't have an actual aircraft panel in it. It's a simulated panel. So these don't work. Device number 1, if you or 2 over there, if you use those, when you push these, they'll pop out. Okay.
That was the note that was associated with it.
Right.
Lamps test button,
Yeah.
press and check.
Okay, lamps test, press and check. So lamps test is on my side, so whoever's in the left seat's basically always going to push this button. So lamps test is right here, and when you press it, it's a detailed procedure, and what we're going to look for is, we've already checked these, right? What we're looking for is down here. So we're going to go, I'm basically going to go outboard to inboard, so I'm going to go reversionate switch, reversionate switches green and amber left and right, hum Z left and right, FTDCP flashing green and amber lamps test, left and right. Then we're gonna go back and hit, I got 4 green lights on comms, you got 4 on comms. All the AFCS lights are green. I've got lock and unlock and tilt wheel. You should have 2 comm panels in the back for the 2 crew chiefs, one on the left and one on the right. And then all of these lights up here except that good, because we've already checked it. Lamps test complete.
Okay. Fire detection system, position 1, AP
Okay.
fire.
So right next to the lamps test is the fire detector, and it's normally in the operational position. We're gonna move it to position 1, and it's gonna make all the fire lights come on. So we're gonna get a fire, 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 and fire. We get all of those, we're test complete. We turn it to operation.
SAS 1, SAS 2 trim, FPS switches on.
Okay, so trim powers up at the on position, so you should never have to turn that on. So we're gonna go SAS 1 on, SAS 2 on, FPS on.
There is a note.
There's a note that says we're going to reset computer 1 and 2, but it says computer 1 and 2 may not reset until the aircraft's in the EGI is in the orient phase. If you can see your attitude indicator, you're past the orient phase for the EGI. So this is basically tells you that it's going to reset. Look at that.
And that was step number 13, load mission data.
Okay, load mission data. So we're going to go to INI, and we're going to go DTS, and go to load, and load all, confirm.
And then it says under user status ready and
Yeah,
ready or
it was ready. I just skipped that step. You're right.
Okay.
Thank you for the correction. That's why you're using the checklist.
Avionics com frequency set as required.
Okay. So we're going to let this go up about 4 or 5 files. We're way past that, so we're good. Okay, so we're going to do comm. All right. I'm going to let you do the comm. I'm going to let you put the comm in there. Okay, so go to comm, and you can use the radio selector to select your radio. So get the box where you want it, and left to right, we're going to go to radio 1, radio 1, radio 1, or preset 1, preset 1, preset 1, and then the last one is preset 20. So move the, don't go 20 times, go the other way.
Right. Yep. Oh,
You're going up.
there.
There you go.
I just heard that I can't do it too quick.
Yeah, you can't do it too fast because it takes a moment
There.
to register. Okay, so 1, 1, 1, and 20. So now we have all the comm frequencies in. We're not going to check the radios yet. That's coming later, right? So we get our comm frequency set, and then we move on. Now, if we catch fire or something, we can at least call for help.
Yes, sir.
Seriously, that's what we're doing. All right. So, cold weather control exercise not required. So we got a warning prior to flight. The user must perform control sweeps to ensure there are no flight control interference problems with aviator worn gear, like body armor, survival vests, things like that. And usually it comes in when you're normally wearing a survival vest, but then you add body armor to it. That's going to change your seat position from what you normally do because you're going to need an extra inch or 2 of clearance. So we check that. Gear must be repositioned or eliminated to remove the restriction. So when hydraulic access cover is open, that caution is not going to apply to us because we won't let you operate in that condition. So we're just going to pretend that doesn't exist. But we got to note, the force applied to the pedals with the SAS boost switch during pre-flight checks should be limited to that only required to contact the system stop. It says additional pedal force results in no additional motion. So you push the pedals till they stop and quit pushing them.
Right.
Okay? So flight controls check, first flight of the day. So I'm going to do it, and you can kind of follow along the checklist, and we'll do it. All right? So give me the first step.
Okay. Collect them approximately 1 inch above
Okay.
mid position.
So we're going to use yours as the example because you're normally going to do this from your seat, right? So we're going to hit the collective trim release. We're going to raise it about right there. You want it to be right like this. If I put my hand right across there, so this front part's about 1 inch above the thing. So I usually just lay my hand on there. That looks right. Okay. Collective 1 inch above mid position.
Press off.
SAS boost switch off. Now, I'm going to do this just to demonstrate what it looks like if you don't have the collective in the right position. So let me turn SAS boost back on. Now, if you have the collective down here, when you turn SAS boost off, the collective and pedals are going to jump. See? Now, if I put it in the right spot, and I move it, nothing jumps. That's how you know you got it right. Okay?
And then there should pop up the boost servo off,
Boost servo off, and SAS off cautions appear.
and then the master caution.
I'm going to reset the master caution.
Servo,
right.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
servo off switch.
Servo off switch. So we're going to test these one at a time. So we're going to go servo off switch. We're going to do both of them. I'm going to servo off switch first stage. Then I'm going to primary servo 1 fail. All right. Acknowledge that. Now we're going to do a cyclic and pedals. We're going to do cyclic and pedals check with 1 servo cyclic check. Cyclic, collective, and pedals with 1 servo off. Right? So we want to go cyclic through full range of motion. So I'm going to hit the cyclic trim leads. I'm going to go full range of motion while moving the pedals at the same time. So I want to hit the stops on the cyclic all the way around, and the pedals full range of motion. All right. Then I'm going to take the collective and I'm going to go up and down, full through its full range of motion in 1 to 2 seconds. There we go. Okay. And I'm checking for the primary servo 2 caution to appear. It did not.
And servo off switch, stage 2.
Okay,
The
so
second
when I go to second stage, I'm going to go off, the caution went away, I'm going to go to stage 2, I got primary servo 2 fail. I'm going to reset the master caution, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do this cyclic and pedals in full range of motion, checking for no binding or restrictions. And I just kind of, as a personal technique, I always go forward left first, and then come back to the center. Okay, same thing, collective, full up, full down in 1 to 2 seconds, and I'm looking for the primary servo 2 pressure not to appear. Okay. Did not appear.
And then warning, if primary 1 servo switch or primary servo 2 fail, caution appears during collective movement and servo bypass valve may be checked. If this situation occurs, do not fly the helicopter.
So that's what we were looking for. It did not appear, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Servo off switch, normal.
Servo off switch normal. Our primary servo caution went white.
Layout 3, step 8 and I check forward no more than 1.5 inch of free play and
Okay.
control.
So for this part, what we're going to do is we're going to check the collective and the pedals, but we're going to do it slow and smooth. So we're going to do them in not less than 5 seconds through full range of motion and check for binding. If you have slop in the collective, so like if you move the collective, because you've got the blades out there normally, right? You're going to be able to look out the window and see the rotor blades. If you move the collective 1.5 inches and the blades haven't moved yet, it's broken. All right? So we can't really do that check here, but we're going to pretend we can. Okay, so I'm going to do collective, do full range of motion. So I'm going to hold the little collector trim. I'm going to go up and down slowly. And I don't feel any excessive free play. And there's my 5 seconds. Okay, so same thing, pedals, full range of motion. I'm going to go 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005, and back to the center. Not less than 5 seconds.
And then tail servo switch back up.
Okay, so now that we've checked the pedals with the primary servo, tail servo 1, we're going to go to backup and do the same 5-second check. Tail servo to backup, we get tail servo 1 fail, tail servo 2 on,
And then the
And then-
master caution.
and we can reset that. All right, so 1,001, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005, and back to the center.
And
Okay,
then tail servo switch normal.
tail servo switch to normal,
Cautions and advisory should disappear.
caution advisory disappeared.
SAS boost switch on, boost servo off, and SAS off caution should appear.
Boost the south side caution disappeared. Okay,
Cyclic center.
cyclic centered, collective centered, pedal full down, raise no more than 1 inch.
And backup hydraulics pumps off.
Okay, and backup hydraulic pump switch off. All right, so we get all the cautions because we turned off the only pump. All right, we can reset the master caution.
Stabilizer check.
Stabilizer check. Okay, it's another detailed procedure. You're going to back up the checklist. There's a warning that says if any part of this check fails, do not fly the aircraft. Okay, so for the stabilizer check, the first thing we're going to do press and hold the test button. You're going to press and hold until you get the audio. You see the stabilizer position indicator go up 5 to 12 degrees, and the V&E arc appears on the airspeed indicator. So, step 1, verify that we're between 34 and 42 degrees. Right, 34 to 42 degrees. I'm at 39, you're at 39. So now we can hit the test button. We're looking for, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. You see V&E arc, let go. You should hear You might need to turn up the volume on the headset because I can't hear the beeping.
I
If you
can
can hear the
hear
beeping, you're good. I got 20 years of jet engines, I don't really hear it. Okay, so if we got that, we got the master caution. All we got to do is auto control reset. It should go back full down, and the cautions in the audio should go away. So it went back down to 34 to 42 down. Master caution went out, stable caution went out, and the audio quit. Okay, so that part of the check's complete. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use either cycle mounted stabilizer slew up switch, 15 up approximately 15 degrees. So I'm going to let you go first. So ma'am, you're at 39 degrees down, right? So you want to pull it until it gets to 24 degrees. Stop, let it go a few seconds before you do it because there's a reaction time thing there. So
looking for,
you're trying to slew it up approximately 15 degrees.
okay, 15 degrees. Oh.
There you go. You're good.
More?
Just,
Okay.
that's
All right.
fine. Okay, so it's at about 25 now, so I'm going to go to my side. I'm going to slew my side up approximately 15. I'm going to try to stop at about 10. Close enough. Okay, so from there, we go to the manual slew switch. So the manual slew switch, we're going to slew this all the way up until it stops. And it should stop between -6 and -10, which is up.
Right.
So I'm going to slew it up until it stops. It should stop in the range of 6 to 10, and it did. Okay, now let go. Now I'm going to slew it down to 0. Damn, missed it. Okay, and then I'm going to auto control reset, and it should go back full down, and the cautions and advisories and everything should go away. So it's going to go down to 34 to 42 degrees. Master caution is going to go out. Stable caution goes out, and it should be back in auto mode. So we're check complete. The stabilizer passed.
Play DI system?
Not required. So go to the next green one.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I'm like.
Go ahead. Just you can't break it. Well, you might, but I'm not
I
worried about
might.
You can see it.
it. Just do it.
Oh no.
You're
Okay.
fine.
FMS initialization check is required.
Okay, so there are several notes with the FMS initialization, and we try to get the notes on the page where they make sense. Okay, so I'm gonna use your side so you can just see it better over here. All right, so we're gonna go to INI, and what we're gonna do on this page is we're gonna check the aircraft's position, date, and time. So the note says that the aircraft will default to its last known location and will update the location when the GPS satellites become available, right? So we're looking for position, date, and time in WGS 84. If the clock's wrong in this simulator device, I can't fix it, so it's supposed to be coming off a satellite somewhere. So position, date, and time, WIGS 84 on page 1, that's all we do, okay? So then we go down to next page, and on this page, we're looking for our EGI to have done their alignment. So we're looking for nav and nav on both sides, right? Now, there's a note that says the number 2 EGI may attempt to air align when AC power is applied. So number 2 normally powers up off the battery, but sometimes when you turn the APU generator on and it gets AC power, it will do it a second time. And so you may get here and see number 2 being aligned. It's still in alignment mode, okay? And then there's another note that says if you don't press the INIT button, if you don't press INIT to do a manual initialization, it will auto initialize. So we always let it auto do it. I'm going to show you what it looks like today if you manually do it. So I'm going to go to my number 1 and I'm going to hit here. I'm going to initialize number 1. And it's going to go to standby. And this is where all the steps are. As you see up here, so standby, right, orient, attitude, and it'll go through those cycles. So now it's to orient, then it's going to go attitude, and it will eventually work its way through the process. And you will get back to nav mode. So all of those steps on the checklist are only required if you push the button.
Got it.
So we just typically let it go in auto mode, right? So there's our attitude, and then the next thing is going to be what? Align, DNAV, ready, and then it'll go to nav.
So when we go to flight launcher, would they make us do it manually?
No, you only do it manually if the auto initialization doesn't work. So let's say sometimes if you were to take this aircraft, put it on a ship, send it halfway across the world, and take it off a ship, the aircraft doesn't know where it is. So it's going to take it a while to figure that out. So there is a way that you can manually tell the aircraft where it is rather than wait 20 minutes for it to figure that out.
Got it.
Right? And so same parking spot at low field every day, we never have to do that. Okay, So we've got our note. We got our two notes about that. It will default. Right. We got our note about the if you press the I and IT button. Okay. So we got one more page. On the next page, we have to check. There's a note that says the performance calculator can only be used after you verified the aircraft configuration on this page. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the tail number matches the tail number. That's a good start. All right, then we're going to look at ETFs. Do they match what the logbook says they do? Okay, for engine 1 and engine 2. Then we're going to go to performance variables. We're going to look over here, and it says download change, 0.014, right?
Yep.
0.014. Okay, that is the adjustment made for the upturned exhaust system. Because the aircraft weren't originally built with that, it's a modification. So the original software had to be modified to make that calculation work. So it should say 0.014, 111000. You get all that, you hit return. Come across, we check drag. Drag should be 0, but if you look at the configuration to make sure it generally matches what we're doing, right? HERS baffles installed. So even if you have upturned exhaust, it needs to say that, because if not, the correction will be wrong. That 0.014 won't work if this is not correct. Okay, then you go down here. We don't have gun mounts and all this other stuff. So basically, cockpit doors on. Just generally make sure the configuration matches what you've got. Hit return. Aircraft gross weight. Now this is where you're going to tell it how many crew you have, how many passengers you have. So this says crew. We can change, how many crew members you got. We can put 2 or 3. It says 600 pounds. It's defaulted to 200 pounds per person. If that's not right and you know it isn't, then you could go ahead and fix that. If you change this to, let's see, make this 2 crew members and hit enter, let's go back here. Okay, 2, enter, she changed to 400 pounds. So we'll go to 3, it didn't work. Let's try that again. 3, enter. Okay, 600 pounds. You can put whatever passengers you got there and how much they weigh or any equipment they got. So you can change your cargo weight, all that. So you do your weights and stuff here. So when you use your performance calculator, it's got the correct information. Okay? That's really all you have to check there. Okay? So that step's complete. So initialization is complete. Avionics.
Avionics,
Checked and set as required. Okay, so avionics checked and set as required. This is where we're going to do our radio checks, right? So we're going to go to COM, nav, transponder, and status. Those are the 4 things we're going to check. So we're going to go to COM. You get on the radio, and we're going to make a radio call on each one of these frequencies and talk to somebody. So we do 1, hey, you, this is me. How do you hear me? Move on to 2, that's ATIS. We're going to get our information. We're going to write our stuff down, take notes. And then we're going to go to nav. So COM, nav, transponder, status. So we go to nav. And on nav, we haven't put our nav information in yet. So this is where we do it. So we're going to go to 1 and enter. You can't use the radio select. That's COM radios only, right? Then you go down here and hit 1 and hit enter. And then we go over here and we do VORTAC, we do pair. And we know that works because if we look up here, now my VOR says 5.6 nautical miles to the radio. Okay, so COM nav is done. We go to transponder and we're looking for on. So if you want to change this, you use this to go across here, then use the other side to turn it on and off. Okay? It should say the unique identifier should be correct. I'm assuming it is. I don't know what it is for this aircraft. It should be in mode 4 should be on and should be in standby. Now, mode 4 is a secure mode that requires a fill, right? They put the device back here and they put it on here, select the transponder, and they load it, a code into it. We don't load codes at Fort Rucker because it's a classified thing. The contractors operate the aircraft. They don't have security clearances, and it's a pain in the ass for doing 100 aircraft every day. So you're going to have a mode 4 failure every day because we don't put the fills in. So you'll get a message up here in the message line that says, something about mode 4 doesn't work. You'll have to clear those messages every day. The device doesn't do that, the aircraft will. You'll have to clear them every day in the helicopter. All right, so transponder and status. So for status, we're going to analyze, we're going to note and clear any no-goes. So we don't have any no-goes here, right? What we have is a degraded. That's not a no-go. So we're going to say go, 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 1 degraded, and that's AFCS. There's a checklist item to clear that later, okay? So Your check is complete.
Set up MFD, FD, and FMS.
MFD, FD, and FMS for mission. So again, it's another detailed procedure, and there are several steps to it. All right. So what we're going to do is this. You're going to follow along. So go ahead and set the checklist down and just follow along. All right. So we're going to do them kind of in order left to right because that's the way I learned to read. We're going to go to nav display on both screens because you're going to set up both displays like you want them. So if you have a failure in flight and you have to switch displays, it's already preset. So for nav display, we're going to cancel the cast box, so make both these cast box goes away. That way we get our range button, because this range button's only available if you cancel it. So we're going to change our range to that ring says 20 nautical miles. Okay, so range is set to 20 on both sides. We're going to go to storm up here, and we're going to push the button, and we're going to make sure it says enabled. And it should say strike, that's by default. And then we're going to hit return and just be done with that. Okay? So that's all we have to do on the nav display. Then we're going to go to TAC map on both screens. We're going to cancel the cast box on both sides. We're going to come up here to the top and we're going to go to TIV and turn it off. And then we're going to go to height above terrain and turn it off. Then we're going to come down here to heading orient, and you can change that to whatever you want. I'm going to leave the orient in heading so the map moves with me. We're going to change our scale to 1 to 100,000. And then we're going to go down to our zoom, and we're going to change it to 0.5 and kind of zoom out a little bit. Then we're going to go down to threat and turn threat off. And because I have my map turning with the aircraft, I'm going to leave the north arrow on there. You know, it's personal preference. You can do that if you want to. Okay, so we've got our nav display, we've got our TAC map set up. We got to log into JVMF. We're also going to do that here. I'm going to let you do that. So, how do you get to JVMF?
You have to go to the ECAS and B4.
Okay, so you can go push the JVMF button now.
Oh, no.
There you go. Okay, now to log in, you go to the TI login button up here and push it. Okay, now it's supposed to pop up a box down here, and it does on any page except the status page. So pick anything else. Now do it again. Okay, so 212 is the code, and 212 again. Okay, so it should say status is operational, okay, logged in, you're good. All right, so there's a note about this. The note says that only 2 UTOs can be stored, and if you need another one, you're gonna have to load it manually. You're gonna have to load it, directly to the IDM. So, if you look up there, UTO, that's got it's highlighted like in green. So that's kind of that's what reminds me there's a note there. Right? So I see the green like UTO. It's like, oh yeah, there's a note. You can only have 2 UTOs. Okay, so you only have to do that on one. So I'm going to put mine back on primary flight display, and I'm going to set mine back on ECAS. All right, so you can do the same thing. So we've done a couple of the things, a couple of the steps here, right? So we've set up our MFDs, we've logged in JVMS, so we have to set up our flight director and our FMS. So if you want your flight director to fly a flight plan, you need to have a flight plan set up. So let's go get a flight plan. Okay, so we're gonna go to flight plan. We're gonna pick one, and I want you to go to northwest to Brown. So, import a flight plan. Go ahead and import to A. Go to flight plan list, I guess, actually. Get the flight plan list. Now, go to page 2, item number 18.
Oh, next.
Next page. Item number 18 should be northwest to Brown. Okay, choose that one.
Import to A, right?
Import to A. And then go back. Go to flight plan A and activate the flight plan. Engage the flight plan. Okay, so now we have a flight plan. Okay, now we can set up our flight director. So you can change your nav source. You can set it up. You can set up to like instead of TACAN, we can change it to FMS, right? So go ahead and do it. Go ahead and set yours up.
Oh.
You gotta enter your nav source. FMS.
So
Okay.
I got FMS number
So you got your FMS, you got your nav source on FMS. Okay, now you can't engage it right now because we're on the ground, right? But you can do altitude preset. For corridor outbound altitude is 800 feet. So you can go ahead and alt P and put 800 feet. And then you can engage that. And now you're coupled and set up, ready to go. Okay, so that's all of the steps. We're basically done. We can move to the next item on the checklist.
And then APR 39 as required.
Okay.
1 minute for test.
Off.
Barometric on.
Barometric altimeter set. So our heading is, say, 299 or altimeter setting 299 So I see 299 so I'm going to go to my reference. We need to make sure this is reference baro, which it is, and then you can just turn the knob and change the number to 299 Same thing up here. We're going to check. So we say, altimeter set left, right, and center. Right?
And then I have to change mine.
Yes.
Arrow.
Reference baro, and then okay. So altimeter set left, right, and center.
Left, right, center. Starting engine.
Starting engines. Great. Big caution. Okay.
Prior to starting engine, ensure main rotor blades are aligned with the aircraft center line plus or minus 20 degrees before engaging the rotor brake. Damage to the main rotor blades will occur if blades are positioned over UES during engine start with the rotor brake applied. Heat damage can occur if blades are kept in the static position with engine operating.
Okay. So the blades are plus or minus 20 degrees. Crew chief moved them for you. We're good? All right.
And then engine fuel system selector is required.
Okay, crossfeed for the first start of the day. So we go all the way forward. Crossfeed.
Engine ignition switch on.
Engine ignition switch on.
No. Ghost lock engaged caution may
Okay.
not be visible.
Yeah, so you're going to check it here in the ECAS because if you're on a TAC map, if you had that CAS box, it's going to have so many things on it that would be like page 3. So we always check it on the ECAS page.
Ghost lock engaged caution verify off.
Same thing. We're going to verify it on the ECAS page because it may not be visible in the CAS box.
Yes, sir.
And it also warning is that the stabulator could, if it's unlocked, could fold up into the tail rotor. So you gotta be careful.
No. Stabulator unlock caution may not be visible on the ECAS page or CAS page. And
Yes.
then,
We're good.
yep. Stab unlock caution verify off.
It is off.
Fly guard posted if available.
Posted.
Rotor blade check clear and rotor blades align with the aircraft center line.
They're cleared, aligned with the center line.
20. Flight controls hold.
Okay, flight controls hold. So this is normally when in the regular aircraft, the pilot in the right seat would be the one starting the aircraft, and the one in the left seat is going to hold controls. But in this case, I'm going to do all of it. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do all of it. All right. So flight controls hold. If operating conditions permit, engines may be started with an inoperative or not installed rotor brake. So you don't have to use the rotor brake, right? That should be obvious that you don't have to use it, but they put a note anyway. So engines start. So we've got a warning, inadvertent rotor brake movement should occur during rotor brake slippage. So if you attempt a start with the rotor brake on, basically we have to go through this warning, cautions, and notes before we start the aircraft, right?
Why would you start with the rotor brake on? That was my question.
Why? If you're starting on a ship, shipboard operations where it's where there's people working around the outside and you don't want it moving until you have to, or sometimes for maintenance. If you find a fuel filter button popped on an engine on pre-flight and somebody has to change the filter, they have to run it up. Somebody's got to get up there with the engine running and check it for leaks while it's operating. So we do that with the rotor brake on.
Okay.
Right? So there's a couple different reasons for doing it. Okay. So if a start attempt is made with the engine ignition switch off, do not turn the switch on. If you get the fuel going and there's no spark, and then you turn the key on, all the fuel ignites at once, big fire. Okay, so we got some notes here. During rotor brake operations, there will be no NP or torque, because if the blades don't turn, that should be obvious, no NP or torque. Transmission oil pressure caution, same thing. If the oil pressure, transmission oil pressure will be 0 if the blades aren't turning. Okay. All corresponding number 1 and number 2 hydraulic cautions remain on, so these pump fails will not go out until the blades get enough RPM to make them go out. Fuel pressure low cautions should be on until the engines are running about idle speed, and then those should naturally go out. fuel boost pump control switches, these two pumps up here should not be used to make that light go out. Because it will, watch. I'm going to do it, show you what it looks like. Now, I've pressurized the system. If I turn it off, it's already pressurized. Caution's not going to come back. If any of these indications occur, so we got 5 start abort criteria. Do you know what they are?
Yes, sir. So no rise in TGT, oil pressure, and the Q, or no. TGT, oil pressure, and then NR within 45.
It was MP1, MP2.
So
Okay.
it's
MP1.
pressure skip 1, TGT skip 1, NP.
Yeah,
Bam,
within
bam,
45
bam.
seconds.
Within 45 seconds.
Yeah, and
Right.
then TGT rises above 851 before the idle, and then the engine starter goes up before
Before
52.
52%. Okay, great. All right. So to avoid damaged engine start switch actuators, that's this thing up here, don't go from idle to off with the button pressed in. Wouldn't normally do that. All right, during engine start and run up, ensure the cycler is kept neutral. That's me. Not collected not more than 1 inch above full down and pedal centered until NR reaches 50% minimum to prevent damage to the anti-flat bracket bushings. All right. If an engine starter caution on disappears before the starter button is released and the power control lever is still off, the start may be attempted by pressing and holding the button until you reach 52 to 65% NG. All right. For starts of the rotor brake off and during rotor brake engagements, cyclic inputs shall be minimized to prevent droop stop pounding. Also, there's a delay of approximately 1 second between the time the starter disengages and the engine starter on caution disappears. Consequently, the NG is permitted to indicate above 65% when starter dropout is indicated on the MFD, but the starter caution must disappear by the time the engine reaches idle. Okay, so I've got all the notes, cautions, and warnings. So now let's go back and actually do some steps. Okay, so we're going for starter button press. I'm going to start the number 1 engine, so I'm going to say identify number 1, starting number 1. Pressing the number 1 starter button. I'm going to look for a starter on caution. I get it my NG. Actually, I should point the other way. Okay, so we're going to reset the clock because the next part's timed. Okay, so I got my starter caution on. I got a rise in NG. I'm going to check TGT, make sure it's below 30 degrees. It is. It's minus 89. So I can go ahead and advance power control at idle. When you do that, change your hand position to like this and just push it forward till it stops. Start the clock because this part's timed, right? 45 seconds. So we're looking for a rise in TGT. It should happen in a moment. It didn't. That's weird. Something's broken. Okay. Pull that off and abort the start. All right. So I don't know what's going on because it should have started. I have an NG. I have the key on. The fuel is on. Push the starter button. It should have worked. So let's try it again. Sometimes it freaks out.
I saw that there wasn't anything on here that would show it.
No. Well, there's a.
Do you want me to check malfunctions?
Yeah, check the one that says maintenance on the top tab. See if there's any. The top tab or the maintenance one. Is that the maintenance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing. It's all green, right?
Yeah, it's all open.
Okay.
Is the freeze on? Is
No,
it
it
the
shouldn't be because the numbers are working. Okay, so starter caution. Got a rise in NG. Advanced power control lever idle. Okay, well that's disappointing. All right, let's pull this off. Let's see if we can start number 2. Number 2, got a starter caution, got a rise in NG, releasing the button. Advancing TC's below 30, advancing power control over to I. There it goes. So number 2 is going to start. So I got a rise in NG, I got a rise in oil pressure, TGC is coming up, I got NP starting, TGC is coming up, I'm looking for NG, starter caution off between 52 and 65, TGC stays below 851. So if TGC's come back down, we're going to let it get back down to the 400s, and we're going to say that's a good start on engine number 2. So why won't engine number 1 start? One last time with engine number 1. Hang on, engine number 1's broken. So we're not going to get to no fly today. But we're going to pretend it's good. Alright? So I'm just going to take the PCL off and just leave it off. We'll just pretend it's good. Okay. So, we've repeated steps on both engines. So we've got 2 engines running, right? So now we're down to rotor brake, if applied. Nope, rotor off. We don't have that. Systems check. So we're looking for NG within 63 or greater. So NG is 63 or greater. And we're looking for them to be within 3 of each other. So this one's obviously off. We can't check that. Okay. NP 1 or 2, check out of the avoid range at 20 to 40 to 60 to 90. Are we out of the avoid range, 20 to 40?
Yeah.
No, we're not. See, what the hell? That's okay. We can pull it down a little bit, advance it forward, and we can fix that. See, now we're out of the avoid range. Okay. It says advance engine power control levers as required to get you out of the avoid range. Right? So we did. We gave it a little bit. Okay. Transmission oil pressure check. Oil pressure is in the transient idle range. That's where it's supposed to be. Oil pressure, engine oil pressure is good. And hydraulic fail cautions have went out because the blades are spinning. All right. So that takes us back down to hydraulic pump switch auto and the hydraulic leak test. All right. So hydraulic pump switch auto. Now we're going to do a hydraulic leak test. So there's a couple notes here. So the note, if the backup pump is running following the check, cycle the backup switch. And the other note is up here that says when performing hydraulic leak test, LDI system components are checked electrically. Holding the switch in leak test position does not allow the test to be performed. So we push it to the test. You're going to see a whole bunch of cautions advisories come on. We'll check them. Push it to test, release it. We're looking for reservoir 1 low, reservoir 2 low. Backup reservoir low. Tail servo 1 fail, tail servo 2 on. Boost off, sass off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The master cautions. All those are done. Then we go ahead and reset it. All those cautions advisories go out, except the backup pump is still running. Anytime the backup pump comes on automatically, it runs for 90 seconds. So what we're going to do is what this note says. If it's still running, we're going to turn it off and turn it back on, or back to the auto position. So when we do the next test, it's ready. So we're going to go tail servo transfer check. We're going to backup hydraulic pump switch auto, and we're looking for the backup pump to come on and tail servo on advisory within 3 to 5 seconds. 1 fail, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. There we go, backup pump on, tail servo 2 on advisory. So we're check complete, and we're going to return the switch to normal. The backup pump will continue operating, and we're just going to let it run. All right, so takes us down to hydraulic leak test is complete, tail servo transfer check is complete, and we're all the way over here to engine run up. I swear I gotta get some rings for this. All right, engine run up. Restrict engine power control lever movement when the tail wheel lock pin is not engaged. So if this tail wheel lock pin is not locked and you move the controls too fast, the aircraft can actually yaw. So we don't want to kill anybody, so we avoid that. So for rotor brake operations, ensure that the 57. Okay, so if the rotor brake is on, we'll have 0 rotor speed, right? But the engine's running. So what you do is you release the rotor brake, and then you let the rotor get up to what MP is, about 45% for one engine, or about 57% for 2 engines. So in our case, we started with the rotors on, so the rotor's already there. Okay, so the note really doesn't apply to us today. Engine power control levers fly. So, only got 1 engine running, so I'm going to take that 1 engine to fly, which is just a little bit farther than it is right now. And on the way up, we're looking for the droop stops to go out at 70 to 75%. So these 4 things happen at once. Lever to fly, droop stops out at 70 to 75%. ABCS in op at 90. And generator 1 and 2 fail go out at 97. So, the ABCS and ops on the second page here. So I'm going to go ahead and advance it at about 90%. I can't see the droops, the crew chief will call them. So you'll hear something like, droops out.
ABCS went out.
ABCS went out. And generators are out because we're above 90%. Okay. So we're flying. All that seems to be working. Okay. And good to go there. Okay. Takes us over here. Blade test not required. All right. If helicopter engine was started using external power source and/or AC power, APU must be started. They do a generator back in there. We're not doing that. Right. Generators number 1 and 2 switches off. Generators 1 and 2 off. Why did I do that? That's one we did. Oh, it wants me to do that check. Never mind. We're skipping that check. Okay, torque 1 and 2, matched within 5%. Well, we only got one engine running, so that's going to be hard to do. Okay, fuel pump switch off. And anytime you turn this switch off, you're going to turn APU control switch off next. Right, so APU control switch off. Air source heat start switch as required. We're going to turn it off. And engine fuel system selector as required. We're going to go to direct for the flight. Okay. Fuel boost pump switches, check before every flight to determine operability. So I'm going to take this boost pump switch, 1 and 2, and I'm going to turn them on, and you should get boost pump 1 and 2 on, right? Then you can just turn them right back off because we don't need them. So we know they work. FMS byte codes. So go to the FMS, hit the status key. FMS, see the DEG, AFCS, degraded.
AFCS, yeah.
Hit that one. Now, flight control computer 1, here. Now hit clear on the other side. Return. Computer 2, clear. Return. Okay. Return and let check all goes. Where all goes? Okay. That part's complete. So, the next thing is the hit check. We're not going to do it today because it takes a little while. We'll do it on like day 3. After you've had a couple days of practice, then you guys can perform the hit check. All right? So that takes us, because we're going to skip the hit check, we're going to go to parking and shutdown. All right, so parking and shutdown. Tail wheel lock, tail wheel switch as required. So tail wheel is locked. Okay, parking brake set. It is set. Yeah, we can release it and set it. Go ahead and release it and set it.
So,
Release it by pushing the pedals. Now, pull up on it.
while I'm pressing on
Yes,
it, right?
press the pedals. Pull up on it, let go of the pedals. Okay. Fuel boost pump switch is off, and when we normally fly with them off, so we're just going to check them. Landing gear chocked. Crew chief will take care of that. Okay, de-ice, pitot, anti-ice, and heater switches off. So if you look up there, they're all over here. Right. Air source heat start switch, APU. Fuel boost pump switch, APU boost. APU control switch on. We should get an accumulo. We got it over here, but we're waiting for an APU on. If you do this, if you don't get the APU on before you do the next step, you'll make the cockpit go dark. Okay, so we got APU on advisory. Now we can turn APU generator switch, or excuse me, number 1 and number 2 generator switches off. Now the APU will pick it up. So we got our gen fails. Let's get able to reset that. All right, DTS, storage required. If you made manual adjustments to your flight plan en route and you wanted to save them before you log out of the aircraft, then you would go to INI, DTS, and hit store, and it'll write it to the card. All right. If external power is required for shutdown, you gotta hook it up, right? If AC power is not available and the APU doesn't work, then we would do a blind shutdown. You're gonna do number 2 engine shut off first because number 2 engine doesn't have firefighting capability without AC power. Okay. So collective raise no more than 1 inch. So collective pull down, raise no more than 1 inch. Flight controls hold, I'm holding. We're going to restrict the rate and power control movement, just like we did when we went from idle to fly. We're going to slow it down from fly to idle if the tail wheel's not locked so the aircraft doesn't spin. So we're going to pull it down slightly to get it out of the flight detent and kind of preset it. And then we're just going to slowly retard the engine power control. Engine's coming down. There's nothing really looking for. We don't have to call droops or anything like that like we do when it goes up. So engine ignition switch off. cycling as required to prevent anti-flat pounding. So the note says, or the caution says we can cycle it kept in neutral or display slightly with random wind, so I might put it in the wind a little bit. All right, leave it like that. Now, if one or more droop stops do not come in during shutdown, shut down an engine to lower the rotor RPM. So in this case, we only have one engine running, right? So our idling RPM is below 50. So the droop should be in already. Okay? So droop stops verify in. The crew chief's going to say, Roger, droops are in. And then we're going to go prevent to prevent damage to anti-flap stops. We're not going to increase collective pitch during rotor shutdown, rotor coast down. So on aircraft that don't have a rotor brake, like UH60Ms, Hueys, and stuff like that, old aircraft with a rigid rotor system or semi-rigid, what they would do is on coast down, they would pull up on the collective, put some pitch in the blades, and it makes the rotor system slow down faster, slow down quicker, right? If we do that, it makes the blades cone up, so we don't do it. Okay. Backup hydraulic pump switch off. The backup hydraulic pump switch off. We're not moving the controls. Stabulator slew to 0 after the last flight of the day. I'll go ahead and do it. So I'm going to use the manual slew switch. The pilot on the controls will normally do this. See if I can get it to 0. All right. Slew to 0, last flight of the day. Backup hydraulic pump advisory. Check off. Page down. Yep, it's off. Okay. Before engine power control lever is off, engine must be cooled for 2 minutes at an NG of 90% or less. If an engine is shut down from a high power setting above 90% without being cooled for 2 minutes, it's necessary to restart the engine. Restart should be done within 5 minutes after shutdown, and if the restart can't be done in 5 minutes, then the engine should be allowed to cool for 4 hours. So this is what we call the 2-5-4 rule. If you don't let it cool down below 90% for 2 minutes, then you need to restart it within 5 or wait 4 hours. So 2-5-4. All right. So we're going to go ahead and shut this thing down. So engine power control lever is off after 2 minutes, and we never got above 90% NG. So if you look, it was never in that range. So we can just go off. So to go off, you pull down, you push this little lever, off. All right. Crew chief's going to say fuel purge on 2, and he would normally walk around, or she would walk around to the other side and be ready to shut off engine number 1. In this case, number 1 never got started.
So do you normally do it one at a time,
Yes.
shutting them off?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the crew chiefs, the fire guard is going to be on one side. They're going to check the aircraft
Oh,
because they're looking for a fuel purge when they shut it down. And so you're going to say clear off on 2. Crew chief's going to say Roger, clear off 2. You're going to do it off. They're going to say fuel purge on 2. They'll walk around to the number 1 side and they'll say clear off on 1, and you'll go number 1 off. And you'll hear fuel purge on number 1.
Okay.
That's kind of the way it normally works. All right. So engine power control levers off, engine ignition switch off, cyclic as required to prevent anti-flap pounding. Done that. Droop stops we verified in. Back up, back up, back up. Okay, so we are engine power control levers off, and we did fuel system selector off. Both sides. Rotor brake as required. Rotor brakes, if you want to apply a little rotor brake, just pull down slightly till it says 150 to 180 psi. Okay. The rotor system is stopped. Go ahead and apply the rotor brake all the way down and lock it. Okay. That was difficult. That's the way it is in the aircraft. Now, release the rotor brake without hitting yourself in the skull. Be careful. First time I did that, it was down, and I didn't push it down. I was just letting it go. I had no idea how much force was on it, and to knock myself out. It could be dangerous. All right. So after shutdown, when you get the X, 30 seconds after you get the X, if there was any fault validation codes on the torque display, you would see a digits. This aircraft's not set up to give you a code unless I go back there and tell the computer to do it. So we're not going to get a code. But if you lose power to the DEC, like generator power goes away, because the alternator's off, so there's no alternator power from the engine because the engine's off. If you lose generator power, it won't generate a code. That's what the note says. And then codes can be verified in FMS. So if you just hit the status fixed function key, we'd have a no-go here next to air vehicle. And you'd hit DEC 1 or 2 would have a no-go next to it. Okay? So, we don't have any validation codes. So we're going to go down to EGA 1 and 2 switches off. 2 off, 1 off. MFD's off, left, and off, right. Okay. Standby instrument switch off. Oops, wrong one. Again, I can't see it. Okay, standby instrument switches off. All right, overhead switches as required. So we're going to turn off our anti-collision lights because that's one of the things we turned on earlier. We can turn off our air source heat start switch because we don't need that. Windshield anti-ice, windshield wipers, vent blowers, anything like that you had on, you turn them off now.
Do we just keep that vibe on?
Yeah, the vibe always stays on. We never turn that switch off.
Okay.
Like when we got in here, it was a mistake. It should have been on.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a note that says you gotta wait 15 seconds after you turn off the EGIs before you turn off the generator. So it's been more than 15 seconds already. So we can go generator APU off. Okay. Then we're gonna go fuel pump switch off, APU control switch off, batteries 1 and 2 off. Done. Okay, so this last part, you might hear somebody say something like, "Go for a beer," or in the case of this bike model, "Go for all the beers." Generator, fuel, APU, battery. Go for all the beers. APU, battery. Yeah. So generator off, fuel pump switch off, APU control switch off, battery off. So go for beer.
So what's this that clicks when you do the battery search? Like,
Okay, so this right here. Right now, go ahead and apply the rotor brake. Grab that, pull it.
is
Yeah. No,